discussion of karma. Page 64 of this this other translation. Here it's this chapter, or this section of this chapter, called the proof of karmic causality. Yeah? Now, these types of proving, one is called scriptural proof and one is called reasoning proof. So I don't know if the word proof is exactly the right translation, because between the composition of this text and where we are now, the word proof is often also linked to like research, scientific research, things like that. And so then the standards of proving and witnessing and all of that, substantially, different from when this was composed. So what may be adequate then may not be adequate for us. So we don't need to think, oh, these are proofs. Either we're like, oh, I'm convinced, oh, I'm not convinced. But just again, take the teachings and try to relate them and say, what is this saying to me? What can I get out of this that is skillful, that is helpful? Yeah? Because, proof, logic, all that, getting more and more fancy, getting more and more sophisticated. Then at a certain turn, getting more and more confusing too. So don't hang too many coats on this coat hanger. It might fall off the wall. This proof and logic. Scriptural proof. So Pakmodrupa will discuss this. So think of these scriptural quotations not as proofs, but as ways to help us understand more. Just as sweepings are scattered everywhere when the wind blows, likewise is the person who is driven by karma. The person not driven by karma becomes like the sky. This is very nice, right? Just as sweepings are scattered everywhere when the wind blows. So when we are driven by karma, meaning driven by the ripening of past karmas. Not driven by karma as in, now I'm going to live based on the principle of understanding karma. Not in that sense. Here is talking about driven by the ripenings of past karma. That means you just kind of let things, if the wind blows this way, you go that way. If the wind blows this coming from this way, you go that way. Then you're like sweepings, It's like you sweep the dust, the feather, right? And the minute the wind comes, everywhere. In contrast, the person not driven by karma is like sky. Not necessarily just up there as in space. Space doesn't change. Stable. Elsewhere, Jiden Sumgun, in one of his brief teachings, he says, don't be like feathers being blown through a pass, like between mountains, That's where many of us are, Again, something triggers us, goes on a spiral. And the problem is when we're spiraling around, other people's spiral are also spiraling around. And then you bump into each other. And then, the next level, your and their But often, right, as Macbeth, Shakespeare It's but a fool's play, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. You know. The second is the certainty that karmic action and result are separate. So the first one, the first quote is to show that there is such a thing as karma and result, cause and result. Are you going to live your life blown around by karmic winds from the past, or are you going to determine to not be blown around so easily? Second, the certainty that karmic action and result are separate, meaning maybe separate, are distinct. Separate, maybe not so good, this translation, too literal. Because when you look at the example, you see the quote, it says, from hot seeds, hot fruits ripen. Plant a habanero, don't expect, don't treat your habanero chili like your bell peppers, you know. Oh, from sweet seeds, sweet fruits ripen. Plant sweet peppers. And don't expect habanero, you know. Don't plant sweet peppers and plan to make, you know, sambal, you know. Not going to work. Through negative actions, suffering. Through virtuous actions, happiness. The third is the certainty that until meeting its antidote, karma does not lose its potency. These bad seeds, it's not a matter of, you know, they will ripen or not, they will sprout or not. Given the right conditions, they will sprout. Now, that's not the whole picture. Also, given the antidote, they can be destroyed. If the seeds are burnt before they germinate, then they will not sprout, they will not ripen. So the quote, the karmas of the embodied ones, meaning us, beings, do not lose potency even in 100 eons, 100 kalpas. So seed banks, no matter how long those seeds are there, given the right conditions, they will germinate. When the conditions fall into place and the time arrives, they ripen into their particular results. So maybe particular is a good word for the separate. Karmic action and result are particular. They're specific. This seed produces this plant. There's no mistake there. Fourth is the certainty of experiencing one's own results. So quoting from this text, Nagarjuna taught to called the precious garland of advice for the king. When a king dies afflicted by time, his resources, relatives, and friends will not follow him. Meaning, when old age comes for a king, the most powerful person, all his resources, all his relatives, all his friends will not follow him. We are all kings and queens and in our own domains. I think some of us are even, in terms of the kind of freedom and the kind of liberty and the kind of not worrying that we have, and some of us are even better than many kings that have existed in the past. If you cannot recognize that, you know, I think you are focused on the wrong things. So when we die, because of the time is up, all our resources, all our relatives, all our friends will not follow us. Even if they want to, they cannot follow us. Even if they die together, we will go separate ways. But wherever that great person goes, wherever that king goes, his karma follows him like a shadow. The only thing that follows us, where we go next, is the ripening of our karmas. Because that literally shapes every next moment. So it's not just about death. Death is the most striking example, striking moment. Yeah. But actually, every next moment is being formed by the ripening of karma. So in that way, karma is always following us like a shadow. So the analogy of the shadow is also like, there are moments, in a day where you don't see the shadow. Then you think, no more shadow. No, it's there. The last is the certainty that from a small cause, a great result is produced. So there is another part about karma. So apple seed produces an apple tree, but not an apple tree with one apple and one seed, but an apple tree with potentially thousands and thousands and thousands of apples with thousands and thousands and thousands of seeds. Both positive and negative, Do not underestimate small non-virtues by thinking they will do no harm. Just a single small spark burns a mountain-sized grass heap. Another agricultural reference. And do not underestimate small virtues by thinking they will do no benefit. One who collects drops of water slowly fills a large container. Was the Buddha who made these statements sometimes right, sometimes wrong? To prove that the Buddha was always right, consider the following. It is taught that all that is direct in the excellent speech, the teachings of the Buddha, is not contradicted by direct perception of reality. All that is non-obvious is not contradicted by inference, and all that is very non-obvious is not mutually contradictory in the scriptures. So this is a way, at least during that time, a way to consider. Now using logic, it says, how do we know, that the Buddha's speech, Buddha's teachings is not wrong, that the Buddha wasn't wrong? It says because, first of all, you can see directly. There are aspects of the Buddha's teachings where you can see directly how that is true. Then the non-obvious ones, he says, through inference, you can infer, well, if this is right and this is right, then this must be right. If this is wrong, this must be wrong, through inference. Then the third one, he says, they are not mutually contradictory in the scriptures. He says you can reference the scriptures. Now, of course, now my footnote, right? Frankly, there are a few problems. Because all that was taught by the Buddha, well, that's part of the problem, right? Well, did the Buddha really say this? I don't know. Not just like within what Tibetans accept, right? Then there is what Theravada accept and don't accept. What Japanese Buddhists accept, don't accept, in terms of which sutra, which tantra. So it gets complicated. Yeah. So don't focus too much on this kind of proofs. Then even like, what is very non-obvious is not mutually contradictory in the scriptures. Well, Once you start reading scriptures, you have to interpret scriptures. Once you have to interpret scriptures, you have different interpretations of scriptures. So by direct and indirect ways in the profound and vast teachings, methods that benefit sentient beings and make them happy are taught, and methods that harm them are not taught. Okay, this we take to heart. Buddha taught things that benefit and make them happy. And Buddha proscribed things that do not do that. Those who concentrate on altering the scriptures for the current times, although they have altered them in a manner like the teachings of the Buddha, they do not know even a facet of the actual teachings. So we also want to be careful how we interpret scriptures. And don't alter them to suit our times, which sounds like what I'm doing, but I would like to say I'm not doing that. I'm saying pay attention to how things are interpreted, and that while the Dharma and the teachings are timeless, specific instances how this or that is interpreted, while they can guide us and help us, don't let them be the final criterion. Therefore, the speaker of those teachings certainly was a Buddha who have exhausted all faults, was compassionate, and unpervertedly taught the meaning. Now, second proof, reasoning proof. Examined through reasoning, karmic causality is certainly true. It is said that beings go to the land of the dead after dying. But do all those born in this world come from previous lives or not? If they come from previous lives and are born here, after they die and transmigrate from here, leave here, where can they go that they will not be born again? If they do not come from previous lives, what cause could there be for those born without a prior cause to go to the land of the dead and after dying? So you see here, you said, it is said that beings go to the land of dead after dying. But do all those born in this world come from previous lives or not? So like for us, already the first part, you're like, I'm not sure yet. That beings die, go to the land of dead. Yeah, so then this first part, right, the rest of the reasoning gets more and more shaky. So moving on, even though we are taught the easy actions of eating and drinking, going and staying, crying and so on, right from birth, they are known. Even if we are not taught, and even though we are taught for a long time the difficult actions of engaging in Dharma and so on, they are difficult to know. So this one. This is due to the power of prior habituation and non-habituation. And since it is seen that in our current life, it is easy for us to engage in actions that were previously habituated and difficult to engage in unhabituated actions, this is certainly karmic patterning. And this one I can. I don't know about you. I say, each of us are born, right, with these things that nobody taught us. So one explanation, modern explanation, it's like, it's chance. It's the way the brain is wired. It's a result of biological evolution, and so on and so forth. Yes, plausible explanation. But does that add meaning that I can act on that will make a difference, a positive difference to my life here and to my environment, I find that purely biological explanation inadequate. So then I choose, to consider the second point. See how two children born to the same parents, maybe 1 year apart, maybe even twins, they can develop so differently. Right from the beginning, you watch, kids. What catches their attention? Trucks. I remember one of my godsons, absolutely not surrounded by anyone who has any interest in trucks. And not even having a history of, the father when young notices trucks, on his own. Between the age of like 2 and 3, trucks, can't notice enough trucks, can't get excited enough about trucks. Now, totally trucks, no interest to him anymore. We say, imprints from past lifetimes comes up, parents did not further feed the truck interest, trucks disappeared. Of course, you can say, well, there's lots of other explanations. Yes, of course, there's always lots of other explanations. But for me, it's sufficient to say, look at the power of imprint. So I don't even need to, from there, right? I don't need to literally have to accept past lifetimes, but I can learn the lesson of an imprint that is there wherever it came from. You feed it, it will continue. You don't feed it, less likely for it to continue. Where the imprint comes from, you can say mysterious, you can say past life. It's skillful to say past life, because when I skillfully adopt this notion of past life, then now, today, what is past life? Yesterday. What is past life? Last week. What is past life? Last month. How far back you want to go? Up to you. So that then when powerful imprints ripen now, I don't have to go, oh, no, not me. No, it's it's things that were done in the past, that even now seemingly no rhyme or reason. Suddenly I'm averse to something. Suddenly I'm, attracted to something else, right? Karmic patterning, karmic conditioning, karmic habituation. Then next, after dying, one does not cease to exist. Why? When waking from sleep and blackouts, one arises again based on the continuity of one's prior awareness. Likewise, at the time of dying, based on the continuity of prior awareness, one certainly arises again. Here, this paragraph, again, you're like, I don't know. But here is basically saying everything that we know right now doesn't become nothing, It always becomes something else. Right? It always becomes something else. It doesn't become nothing. So there is adequate proof that something becomes something. Something never becomes nothing. Nothing can be proven to exist. This is basically kind of the reasoning here. You're like, after this, there's nothing. Well, where is your proof? Nothing. Here. Prove it. Nothing. So in that sense, we're not playing mind games, but we are like, so, okay. So why are we so insistent? Why are we so sure? Why do we take comfort even? Oh, yeah, nothing. After that, it's nothing. don't stand. It doesn't stand to reason that something becomes nothing. Something always becomes something else. Then if we pay attention to something becoming something else, then we care about what that something else could be. Then it makes sense to think actions matter. Which is the bigger point, of karma. Actions matter. Actions have consequences and impacts. Virtuous and non-virtuous actions have the results of happiness and suffering. In one's current life, it is directly apparent that the reply of one person to whom benefit or harm has been done by another person is to benefit or harm that person. It says, you don't believe in cause and effect? Yeah, well, go out to the street and abuse someone with terrible words. See how they react to you. Likewise, go out there, give someone $100 note. See how they react to you. Therefore, since karmic causality is certainly true, from now on engage in it by meditatively rejoicing in previously performed virtuous actions and by striving solely for virtuous actions. He ends with an encouraging positive note. He didn't say, now go think about all the bad things that you have done. He says, but really reflect on how much, like the kings and the queens that we are right now here today, can you see is the result of skillful, virtuous actions that have been done in the past. Rejoice in that. He's not saying rejoicing in yourself, your ego. Oh, I was so good. You are poor. You are suffering. Must be you are bad. No, he's not saying that. He's saying, be grateful for what you have. But this gratefulness cannot just be, oh, my parents were so good to me. Oh, my great-grandfather worked so hard. So now I have so much land. I have so much property. Those are conditions. Now I have the leisure to do what I want now. I can pursue what I want. Grandpa never got to do that. Grandma never got to do that. No, we're not talking about this, but we're talking about the causes, rejoicing in the causes, which is all the skillful actions that we have done that have allowed us to be the kings and the queens that we are now, and then strive to solely create skillful, virtuous actions. Those actions that not only benefit ourselves, but is of benefit to others, is good to others, is good for others. So this is what we should do. Next section is that on how to take the vows of individual liberation by relying on the basis of having this basic understanding of karma, how it works, skillful karma, unskillful karma, afflicted and unafflicted karmas, all of that. Then now, next section is really to lead to this next section to say, and now please take these vows. Please take these vows because these vows will protect you from creating suffering. So the first part is sort of like, the insurance or the security salesperson telling you, there are all these dangers. Yeah, so if the first part makes you feel, I don't know, this hell, that hell, and some of the more detailed, they go into like Batu Rinpoche's Words of My Perfect Teacher. Oh, juicy bits about all the different hells, you could burn it. For how long, all of that. And people are like, I don't like that. Yeah, I also don't like poison ivy, But not liking it is not going to make it go away. And the reason of teaching you about poison ivy is so that you know how to recognize it and not roll around in it. reason for you to recognize what a skunk is. It's not so that not to go provoke a skunk when you see one. Stay away. It's very funny. People was like, I don't know this past life and how many eons you burn in this hell, that hell. I don't like to be scared. And the other way of phrasing that is, I like to be delusional. I like to be delusional. Can you not, burst my bubbles? That's basically what we're saying, So anyway, of course, this first part, if you have a reaction of like dread, good. Because now he will tell you, okay, but you can buy this security system. You can take this insurance, which is what the vows are. They protect us from exposing ourselves to danger. We really have to approach the vows, the disciplined conduct, the various prescriptions and proscriptions that the Buddha gave to us as really the compassion of the Buddhists. The compassion of the Buddhists is not making sure you don't get sick. It's not making sure, you don't get robbed. It's not making sure, you don't get your house burned down. It's not treating those conditions of suffering, it's treating the causes of suffering. Although when these Dharma teachings went into the container of religion, which is primarily how the Dharma has come down to us, when it went in the direction of religion, that got mixed with religious messages. So yes, we have prayers, prayer to Guru Rinpoche, oh please, let me have a long life. Oh please, let me have a healthy life. Oh, let me have a prosperous life. La la la, all of that, But those are just icing, on the cake. They're not the substance of what the Buddha taught us. So please take to heart the substance. And so we end here today. And we will have a morning class tomorrow. So let's conclude. Go to the opening recitations and Jigten Sumgun's dedication. Starting on page 10. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, Dandakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers, and may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstructors who harm those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May they afflict the thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment with my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta. May I become a virtuous spiritual friend with good qualities limitless as space. May I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the three times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay, tatai. Bye bye, everyone.